What happens when we encounter something that terrifies us, and why does it happen? This is a question that has intrigued scientists, philosophers, and curious minds for centuries. Fear, a primal emotion, is a constant companion in our lives. It's a universal experience shared by all living beings, from the smallest insect to the largest mammal, and of course, us humans. Fear is omnipresent. It can be as mundane as the fear of missing a deadline at work, or as extreme as standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down at the yawning chasm below. It is the chill that runs down your spine when you hear a strange noise in the middle of the night, and the quickened heartbeat when you're alone in a dark alley. It's also the dread you feel when faced with uncertainty, whether it's a challenging situation or an unforeseen event. But fear isn't just about the goosebumps on your skin or the adrenaline rush. It also manifests in more complex forms. Take phobias, for instance. These are intense fears of specific things or situations that pose little to no actual danger, yet they evoke a powerful and irrational response. Then there are anxiety disorders, where the fear is not just a fleeting emotion but a persistent, debilitating condition that affects daily life. And let's not forget the most intriguing type of fear: the fear of the unknown. This is the unease, the apprehension that we feel when faced with something unfamiliar or unpredictable. It's what keeps us awake at night, wondering about the future, pondering over the mysteries of the universe. Fear, in all its forms, is a powerful force that can shape our actions, our decisions, and our perceptions of the world around us. It can motivate us to push our boundaries, or it can paralyze us, keeping us trapped in our comfort zones. It can bring out the worst in us, but it can also bring out the best, pushing us to overcome obstacles and face challenges head-on. Fear, it seems, is an unavoidable part of the human experience, but why? As we delve deeper into this topic, we'll explore the biology and psychology of fear and how it impacts our behavior. So stay tuned and get ready to confront your fears. To answer that, we first need to understand the biological mechanisms behind fear. At the heart of our fear response is a small almond-shaped part of the brain known as the amygdala. This is our fear center, if you will. The amygdala acts like a sentinel, constantly scanning our environment for anything that might pose a threat. When it detects danger, it sends out an immediate alarm, triggering a cascade of physiological responses designed to protect us. This is where our fight or flight response comes into play. In a split second, our body must decide whether to stand ground and fight off the threat or to flee to safety. Regardless of the decision, our body undergoes a series of rapid changes to prepare us for action. Our heart rate and blood pressure spike, our muscles tense, our senses sharpen, and we become hyper-alert. The key players in this physiological drama are the hormones adrenaline and cortisol. Adrenaline, also known as epinephrine, is the first to enter the scene. It's like the starting gun at a race, jolting our body into high gear. It's responsible for the immediate reactions we feel when faced with a threat. The rapid heartbeat, the quickened breath, the surge of energy. Then comes cortisol, the body's main stress hormone. It keeps the body on high alert, fueling us with a steady stream of energy and suppressing non-emergency bodily functions like digestion and immune response. This ensures we remain focused and ready to respond until the threat has been dealt with or has passed. But fear doesn't always come from an immediate, tangible threat. Sometimes it's a product of our imagination, a response to perceived threats that may not even exist. And this is where the amygdala's role becomes even more complex. It not only responds to immediate threats but also to our thoughts and memories, activating the same fear response even when the danger is not present. That's the biology of fear, but what about the psychology? Our minds are powerful things, and they play a crucial role in how we experience and react to fear. The world of psychology offers us a fascinating perspective on fear. It's not just about the physical sensations we feel when we're scared, but also about how our minds interpret and respond to these sensations. Perception and cognition are central to this process. Fear is often triggered by our perception of a threat, real or imagined. This perception is influenced by our cognitive processing, which interprets the information from our environment, weighs it against our past experiences, and makes a judgment about whether or not we should be afraid. Our past experiences and learned behaviors are particularly important in shaping our fear responses. If we've experienced a situation before and it's resulted in harm or discomfort, our mind remembers this and triggers a fear response when we encounter a similar situation. This is a form of learned behavior, a survival mechanism designed to protect us from repeating harmful experiences. But it's not just about past experiences. Our minds also have a remarkable capacity for imagination, which can amplify our fears, especially when it comes to the unknown. We fear what we can't predict or control, and our imagination fills in the gaps with worst-case scenarios. This is why, for example, many people are more afraid of flying than driving, even though statistically flying is safer. The fear isn't about the actual risk, but about the perceived lack of control and the unknown. Fear can also be influenced by societal and cultural factors. Different cultures have different fears, reflecting their unique histories, beliefs, and values. For instance, a culture that values bravery and courage might stigmatize fear, while a culture that values caution and preparedness might see fear as a useful and necessary response. Fear, then, is not just a biological response, but a psychological one as well. It is a complex interplay of perception, cognition, memory, imagination, and cultural conditioning. Understanding this can help us manage our fears more effectively and live fuller, less fear-driven lives. Fear is not just a feeling, it's a motivator. It can compel us to act or it can paralyze us. It's like a two-edged sword that can either pull us into action or push us into a corner. One of the most profound effects of fear is how it influences our decision-making process and risk assessment. When we're afraid, we tend to overestimate the risks associated with a particular action or decision. This is because fear heightens our perception of danger, making us more cautious and less likely to take risks. It's a survival mechanism, a protective layer that our ancestors developed to avoid potential threats and dangers. But it's not just about dodging physical harm. Fear can also affect our social interactions. Have you ever felt that knot in your stomach before making a public speech or felt a wave of anxiety when meeting new people? That's fear shaping your behavior, instigating avoidance tactics. It's an evolutionary response, designed to keep us safe from the perceived threats of social rejection or embarrassment. However, like many things in life, too much of it can be harmful. Chronic fear, that persistent, unrelenting dread that lingers even when there's no apparent danger, can lead to a host of mental health issues. It can contribute to anxiety disorders, depression, and can even affect our physical health. It's like being stuck in a loop of fear, where the fear response becomes a constant companion, a voice that never really quiets down. Fear can even shape our worldview, coloring our perceptions and beliefs. It can make the world seem like a more dangerous place than it really is, leading us to make decisions based on this distorted reality. It's clear that fear is more than just an emotion. It's an influential factor that can shape our lives in myriad ways. It can dictate our actions, mold our personalities, and even alter our perception of reality. Fear then can have a profound impact on our lives and our behaviors. It's a powerful force, one that we must understand and manage effectively to lead healthier, more balanced lives. So, what have we learned about fear? Well, we've delved deep into the biology and psychology of fear, examining how our bodies and minds react when confronted with a perceived threat. We discovered that our response to fear is primal and deeply ingrained in our DNA. It's a survival mechanism that has evolved over millions of years, designed to protect us from harm. When we sense danger, our bodies respond by releasing adrenaline, quickening our heart rate and preparing us for either fight or flight. But fear is more than just a physical response. It's also a psychological phenomenon. We learned that our fears are often shaped by our experiences and environment. Some fears are learned, while others are passed down through generations. Fear can be a complex interplay of genetics, environment, and experience. We also explored the impact that fear can have on our behavior. Fear can motivate us to take action, to challenge ourselves, and to push our boundaries. But it can also hold us back, causing us to avoid certain situations, or to behave in ways that are unhelpful or even destructive. Understanding fear is the first step towards managing it more effectively. When we understand why we're afraid, we can begin to question our fears, to challenge them, and to find ways to cope with them. We can use techniques like exposure therapy, cognitive behavioral therapy, and mindfulness to help us face our fears and reduce their hold over us. So, yes, fear can be powerful and even overwhelming at times, but it's also a part of what it means to be human. It's a universal experience, something that we all share. And while we may not be able to eliminate fear entirely, we can learn to understand it, to manage it, and ultimately to control it. Fear, while universal and often powerful, is something that we can understand, and in understanding, perhaps something we can ultimately control.